Carpe Diem conversation is about the alternative to the traditional way that you live life as a business owner. It's about doing the things that you're dreaming of doing when you retire, but doing them actually right now, because now's the best time, as you continue to operate your business. But most importantly, it's also about day-to-day life. So it's about prioritising the things you value in your life on a day-to-day basis, rather than also deferring them until the weekend or some other time. So it's about integrating work and life as one. It's about Carpe Diem. It's about seizing the day. Anyone not familiar with the term Carpe Diem?
No problem with it.
Yeah. Nick is familiar with it.
Absolutely.
So that's what today's conversation is about, and it is a conversation. So whilst I'll be doing a presentation, I encourage you to interrupt, join the conversation, ask questions, challenge me. We will have a conversation at the end of it, but by all means interrupt along the way. So fantastic. My name's Andy Willis. I'm from Working From Anywhere. I've actually been working with business owners for the past 4 years. Currently what I do, helping them actually achieve being able to do the things they're dreaming of doing when they're retired. They're doing them right now, and they're integrating their day-to-day life as they operate their business. Businesses from single sole operators, solo operators, bricks and mortar business, a cafe owner down in Eden, to larger businesses, a business with a team of 30 people down in the Gippsland who's got a timber industry business. So a range of businesses, range of different businesses, different levels, all actually integrating work and life as one and doing the things they were dreaming about doing right now. So tonight's conversation is in 3 parts. First, we're going to have a look at the traditional way that we've been conditioned to live life as a business owner. We'll then look at the alternative way that you can live life as a business owner, and most importantly the benefits of that, and lastly how to actually make it happen, so how it works. First, life as we know it. Got a little graph here that I've sourced. Basically we've got our lifespan and our health span. We're using that dark line there. Unfortunately it does a little dip a bit as we get older. Overlaid there I've got life as we know it, childhood, youth, family, empty nesting, caring period, so I'll talk about in a little while, and then at the end there a little bit of uncertainty. So that's
take
of course.
Photographs of the.
Yeah, sure, I can.
No, it's okay.
Now of course this is different for everybody, but it's something to work with, and of course through that period we start work as a youth, or we go into business, or we go into business first. We work right through to the end there until we get to that wonderful period that everyone dreams about while they're going through this period. They're dreaming about retiring, what they're going to do when they don't have to go to work, when they've got lots of time and lots of money, dreaming about what they're going to do when they retire. So that's what traditionally we've been conditioned to dream about. So it's all about dreams, what we're going to do later. Many people dream about retiring. A lot of people dream about hooking up a caravan, going for a trip somewhere. I dreamt about going to the French Alps for 3 months and riding my bike, because I'd been over there previously with a group of mates and I always wanted to go back there. Everybody's. Is anyone care to share? Has anyone got any dreams of things they're going to do later?
Here's one.
Got heaps of them.
You've got a list? We'll go around the room. Anyone care to share something they when they're less busy in life, what they'd like to do?
I want to drive the top 10 roads out of Top Gear.
Drive the top 10 roads.
On your motorbike.
Bit of both, probably motorbike and some of them, car and others.
Oh, Top Gear, wow. Anyone else? Happy where you are?
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
Otherwise I wouldn't be doing it.
Yeah.
I suppose for me, meaning I've never worked for anybody else. So I've always had the freedom of making the decision of what I want to do from a very, very young age.
Yeah.
And from a business point of view. So what I always think about in my future is, well, in what you might call my retirement future, because I don't necessarily want to be retired. That's one thing, from a whole heap of reference points, including the fact that you know, people around me have retired and spent 1 year doing it and passed away, which is just horrible. But I want to impart. I've built up a lot of knowledge of mistakes, and I want to impart that to people who are starting on their business journeys or are in the middle of it. So I always talk to my wife about wanting to be a director of companies, wanting to get into that area.
Okay, so
What I'd like to do
Well, live
is
well.
spend 4 months overseas every year.
Me
That's,
too.
uh,
Where are you
that's
going?
what I
Maybe I can meet you there.
Well, maybe France, certainly going to Egypt, back to Egypt. I've got a little list. So I'd like to be able to go for twice a year for 2 to 3 months and do my work, but work from wherever I want to block myself.
I think the word retirement is such a negative term, and it, you know, to your point, might not just necessarily be about death, but it's about nothingness.
Yeah.
You know, and it's no longer what it used to be in sort of the 70s, and the idea of, you know, golfing and, you know, taking a caravan. Like, that's my idea of hell. You know, it is really about reinventing how you live out the rest of your life. You know, the last, you know, and, you know, most of us will live to, according to your chart, till we're well over 80. I mean, the average age of even men is that they will live to a minimum of 80.
Yeah.
82.
Of 80 and women to 90. So, you know,
So, if we look at the way we've traditionally been conditioned, so taking aside that half the people in this room are already halfway, the mindset there, which is the biggest challenge. Traditionally, for the people that do put off doing those things and they dream about, you know, doing the travel or whatever it may be, they need 3 main things to be able to do that. Anyone hazard a guess what 3 main things are to be able to do, you know, drive in the top 10 roads?
Yeah, a little bit of
yeah.
money.
Time.
Money, health and time.
Time.
Yeah, exactly.
Isn't it funny? Every time I do this, we get 100% on those. 1, 2, 3. Money, health and time, in whatever order.
We'll
So,
run out.
traditionally, and the way we've been conditioned to lead our life, which is, even though people in this room aren't accepting that, which is fantastic, is we do it in this period here. Now, there's a couple of flaws in that.
fulfillment period.
Yeah, the fulfillment period. The flaws in waiting to do these things until there is, one is potentially maybe not our health, but it's a period that we don't often see coming, and that's the health of someone, our parents. And that we might end up having to care for our elderly parents just when we get to retire, and just as when we get the time. And it's something that we don't see coming. I've got a friend that put off retiring. He finally retired a couple of years ago, but he was putting it off, getting some more super in there, so he had, you know, making sure he's got enough money which he'd never ever be able to spend. But he kept putting it off, and then he retired. And his mother got really ill. She got Alzheimer's, unfortunately, which is very common. So he spent straight away after retiring looking after his mother. His mother passed away, and now he's looking after his elderly father. So the time that he thought he had, he lost because he was, you know, it wasn't his health. It was.
But that brings up the issue of how much money is enough.
Exactly. That's exactly. Everyone, and it's conditioning. We've all been conditioned and drummed into our heads that we need all this money to retire. And I don't know about you, but as we get older, we actually need less money. What is enough? And that's something that big that I more or less preach is, what is enough? Why are we growing our businesses to make more money, to buy more things, to take up more of our time? This is what this is all about. So yeah, and the other thing that can happen is this, and let's hope.
My life changed dramatically when my father passed away, and he was only 54 years old, and he had worked all his life. He had created a business and he had set it up for his retirement. Him and my mum were going to go travelling, They were going to do some more socialising and really live the rest, the next chapter of their lives. And unfortunately, he didn't quite make that. 52, he had just retired. 53, he was diagnosed with cancer, and then 54, he passed away. So,
and that happened to my father exactly that.
Yeah.
As Dick said.
It's a really common thing. Yeah. Shortly after retirement, something happens.
Yeah.
He was planning to retire quite early. He was planning to retire at 52, so he had a plan. But regardless, he was still planning to do something later, and he didn't get to do it. Unfortunately for Emma, but that was a motivation for Emma too. So I have a weekly Carpe Diem conversation show where I interview people about who are integrating work and life, and she shared that story, and it's such. We all know someone that's happened to. So we can't turn back time. We all wish we can. If you can, that's right. If we could, that's the danger. We get to a point in time, I wish I'd done that earlier, because this is the period we should be doing all that stuff right now, whatever that period is, like you say, in the present. And I was at about that period in life, at 52 actually, and I built a very successful conference and event management business. It was a really successful business, going really well, but the only problem was, it became my life. I was working 7 days a week, I was working long hours, and I was doing the same thing. I was deferring, doing stuff, going to the French Alps until later. And then a couple of things happened in my life, neither of which were health related, unfortunately. One of which was I had a change in life circumstances that saw me become a single man. But the second thing that happened was, when I was, so the conference and event management business, I was doing conferences and events all around the world. They were up to $1 million events, so it was successful, very successful business that built. I consequently need to go to around the world. I'd stop at airports, and I'd often buy a book at the airport bookshop, because I was always too busy leading up to getting on that flight to buy one beforehand, and I bought this book.
Tim Ferriss.
Yes, he's quite famous. It's called The 4-Hour Work Week.
I've read that.
By Timothy Ferriss. I still don't believe there's such a thing as a 4-hour work week. But I really like the concept that you can set your business up to be able to work from anywhere. So I decided that's what I could do. Maybe I could set up my conference and event management business to operate from anywhere, and I could go to France and ride my bike. What could possibly go wrong? So that's what I did. It was back in 2012. I uploaded all my files to the cloud. I started going home 1 day a week to work from there. I had a staff member, I had an office. I just thought I'd go and practice not being there. And then because that's what I do, I booked flights to France, booked an apartment for the month of May 2013. And I packed up my bike, my bag, and my laptop, and I went to France. I was going to go and work from anywhere. What could possibly go wrong?
What did go wrong?
Nothing went wrong.
Yeah.
So I got over there, and I was able to operate my business from there. Nothing went wrong, so much so that the following year I went back for 2 months. And the next year I went back for 3 months, and I've been going back 3 months every year since. All the time operating my business. So it wasn't a holiday. And it was absolutely life-changing. Not only changed the way I worked, but it changed the way I lived my life. And there was something that I discovered that was more than working from anywhere. I discovered that it was not just about where you work from, it was about when you worked. You see, I was over in the French Alps, I was over the other side of the world. I only had a 2-hour window in a completely different time zone, a 2-hour window that I could communicate with my staff members or my clients. So here I was over there with that. I'd have to schedule.
What a bonus.
Yeah, that 2 hours. And then because we're normally conditioned that we start here and we finish here, because that's what we do. But I done that 2 hours, and then a couple of days later, I looked out the window, there's these gorgeous mountains, and there's my bike sitting over there. So I'll go for a ride. And then I come back and do some work later. And so I started really integrating work and life as one. And it's a mindset thing. We're conditioned to do this, start here and finish here. I started breaking it all up. I'd go for a bike ride. Anyone that follows me on Facebook knows that I like my cake and coffee. Started hiking, go to the local markets. And what happened, and it was the biggest discovery. I thought I was just setting myself up to work remotely. It was absolutely life-changing. And what happened then, I'd come home with the same mindset. And my life changed. Even though I wasn't in a different time zone, I started fitting my work around my life rather than my life around my work. I'm a surfer, so the best surf isn't when before or after work, it's when the swell's right, the wind's right, and tide's right. So I go surfing when all that's right and fit my work around it. Out of that, I'd come back from those trips to here, but I'd come back and my friends and colleagues in business would say, Andy, you've got a fantastic life. You had so much fun, all these holidays. And I said, no, they're not holidays, it's just life. But I'd come back and see my friends, colleagues in business in exactly the same position I was. They were working in their successful businesses, just stuck in there, trapped in there, and deferring, doing the other stuff until later. So,
but my biggest issue is a guilt, right?
Yeah, and this is go on.
Because I mean, in all the businesses, I'm guessing there's probably 200 employees who I ask every day to front up to do stuff, and some work remotely. But there's a lot still in offices. There's a lot, I mean, the bulk of them, 100 and something of them, have to turn up to a service station to go to work every day. And my biggest issue, and even coming here today, right? I thought to myself, I don't want to park in town. I want to leave early. I'll go home, catch the ferry across, walk up the street. Do you know how hard it was to get out of the office?
Really?
And not because I had a lot to do.
Yeah.
It was just like, Thamali's doing this and Josh is doing that and someone else is doing that.
That's what's
And you're leaving them.
The employee.
Yeah. And I'm leaving for what, I mean,
You're
from
living
their
a life.
perspective, they didn't know what the hell I was up
for
to
business
do.
reasons, but you still feel guilty.
Yeah, but I felt guilty about it. And it's funny because I get that on those times, but as I told you the other day, meaning I was in LA for 2 weeks, about 3 weeks ago, and I was holidaying and working and doing all that sort of stuff. But the interesting thing was that from the staff's perspective, I was on holiday.
Yeah.
Right. From my perspective, no, I was working from another place because I used the time zone to my advantage and went, oh, you know what? I'll interact with them at certain portions of the day, and I'll do what I want otherwise. But I didn't feel as guilty because of their mindset, not of mine.
That's right. Yeah. What Nick has brought up there is one of the biggest challenges for business owners that I work with and business owners that are stuck in their businesses. It's one of the biggest things is guilt. So part of the program I run finishes with a 7-day retreat in the French Alps. By the time they get to the French Alps, they've been through a program, they're already set up to work from anywhere. It becomes about the conversation. And the conversations we had in the French Alps this year were very emotional. Guilt come up all the time, and there's 2 parts of that guilt. One is the guilt of my team or my staff think that if I'm not there, I'm not supporting them, I'm not working. The other side of it is from a family side of things, where they're working all the time and family's missing out. So it's but the guilt is one of the biggest mindset issues. Guilt and letting go. But isn't it interesting what you're saying? Your mindset was all right because the staff thought your team thought you were on holidays, so it was okay to be away. Whereas it's conditioning again. It's retraining all of us and a lot of the time your team aren't feeling like that, but in your mind they are.
Absolutely.
After coming back and seeing my friends in business, I decided to make it my life purpose to do exactly this, is to help other business owners to help them discover that there is an alternative to the traditional way that you live life as a business owner. So that's what I'm doing. That's I created Work From Anywhere, the business from there, and that's what brings me here today. And from here and up to the coast and all around Australia in the future and all around wherever I can, because it disturbs me to see people deferring to living their life until later.
So Andy, how do you help people like Nick in terms of
Keep going. You need help. Mate. You need help.
I need
not
help.
feeling the
Yeah,
guilt,
exactly.
not feeling the guilt? How do you do
Okay,
that?
the best way to do that is, well, I know Nick's already across a lot of the actual systems and processes, but with our program that we have, part of that program is a mastermind, and it's about getting people like this round a table, around a video call, to everyone has the same problems, and it's actually to talk about those challenges and work through them, and you'll find that there's everyone around the table has these feelings and working through how they got them. So a lot of it is about just working on that mindset, talking to other people.
One of the ways.
Hang on, all these people are doing all this other stuff for me and for my business and my family and all this. You want to continually support that, so that it doesn't sort of act on.
And the other side of that is actually the opportunity to give them the same opportunity.
Yeah.
Some of your team.
That's right.
And that's a bit of a mindset thing, and that's
Advise me in here and
that's an opportunity too. Is actually is changing that, putting your trust and putting the systems in place so they can actually do that, so they don't have to work from this time to this time. A lot of the work these days is becoming outcome based. As long as they do what they've got to do, and it's more productive. You would know that.
And that surprised me, having kids who are in the workforce, that even now they feel they have to stay back beyond their boss. So you actually might be doing them a favour by not being in the office.
Yeah.
Because there's guilt, not just your guilt, but there's guilt of employees that they can't leave before the boss leaves.
The office hero thing. Whoever's
That's
the
not
office
my
person leaves last is
Is the hero.
is the hero, but not necessarily
No,
the
it's not
most
good.
productive person in the
Not good.
organisation. Yeah.
And so maybe it's better just to make sure that they've got fulfilling work and good wages
Exactly.
and benefits, and let them loose.
Yeah,
I'm telling you, let them
flexibility.
loose, because you want to be loose as well. They're not where you are, and maybe they will be one day, but they're not there yet. They shouldn't expect to have what you have. So they should expect to have a good opportunity to get somewhere, and I'm sure your business can provide a lot of that.
And it's not always about, as we know, about the money for people.
And that's
It's
rewarding
about-
work and satisfaction.
Exactly right. Yeah.
More and more, that's the trend, isn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah.
Well, it is, and it's going to keep going that way. Fantastic.
Yeah.
In the program that I do run, I work business owners through a 5-step process to get them there. And I'll just give you just a very top level overview of what that is. So there's a 5-step process, and then they finish, as I say, with a 7-day retreat in the French Alps, which is basically, the whole idea is for them to actually live what they've learned. And whilst there's a lot of people out there helping people systemize their business, that's not what my main purpose is. I want to help people get more out of life by integrating work and life, and have a better life. So that's the main thing. This is just the tool to help them do it. The tools to help them do it. So step number 1 is building a foundation, which is something before the technology goes on top of it. Building a foundation so the business can operate with consistency, and all of this is about eliminating the trap of the business becoming dependent on any one person, in particular, you, the business owner. So that's the main aim of the game. That's what's going to get you to actually live more of your life outside of the business. So step number 1. Step number 2 is, of course, working from anywhere at any time on any device. So that's about moving your entire business to the cloud, not just some of your files, not just some of your programs. It's about moving all of your business data and all of the software, the programs you use, to the cloud. So number 1, you can actually access your business from anywhere at any time, and as importantly, on any device. And I say that because traditionally, beforehand, when we've got servers and other devices that we use, backup the storage devices, if something happened to one of those devices, what happens?
Oh, we've got a great environment at the moment, bushfires.
Yeah, you lose data. You have business interruption. If all of your business is in the cloud, it's secure, not in just one place up there. It's not really up there, but it's always backed up securely in 2 places. One of the statements that always, or one of the things always business owners when they first come in, they say, "But Andy, is our data safe in the cloud?" First thing they would say. My answer to that is Google, Microsoft and Co. spend an enormous amount of resources securing your data in the cloud, otherwise they wouldn't have a business. What do you think the biggest vulnerability for your business data in the cloud might be?
Passwords.
Exactly.
I've been hacked with all my stuff in the cloud.
Yeah.
Actually.
And nothing's 100%, but the biggest vulnerability is the end user's passwords, because we do live in a digital world. It's getting more and more digital. Soon it's all going to be digital. And so what happens? We have to keep creating usernames and passwords, and so it's easier to just use the same ones, variants of the same ones. People in your staff members are using the same passwords in their personal life as they are to access your sensitive business data. That is the biggest vulnerability. It's easily resolved by something called a password manager that not only securely stores all of your passwords, most importantly what it does do is enables you to generate secure passwords. I don't know any of my passwords. You can generate 5, 10, 15, 25 character passwords, a jumble of characters, symbols, letters, numbers, whatever, you don't know what they are, but it's very, very secure and unique to every single thing you log on to.
But you need a password to the vault.
Yeah, you need one password to the vault, yes, but you have to remember one, and of course you don't make it Mary 123 or Ellen 1234, you make it a passphrase or something like that, but you only ever have to remember one, and you can change it of course. But most importantly, you can also access all of those passwords from any device, from anywhere. Also allows you to secure passports, licenses, bank details, things like that. It's really important, like I say, not just where your passwords are stored, but how to generate passwords, that are absolutely unique, and chances of them being cracked are.
I mean, you just talking now, the first thing I've identified is the PCs we buy all have very large hard drives in them.
Yeah,
why do we need that?
Yeah.
We're spending money on stuff we don't need.
Yeah.
If everybody is storing it where they should be.
Yeah. It's a good point. It's actually cheaper to store it in the cloud because you don't have to buy large hard drives. Previously, have done this presentation. The first one I've done, it was a 45-minute presentation and an hour and a half conversation afterwards. Everything's different. This conversation's happened during, and that's exactly what, the whole idea of this is to bring out this conversation. It's not just about what I have to say, it's around the room, it comes to amazing stuff, so thank you. The next step is getting the processes out of your head. Biggest challenge and the biggest reason why a lot of business owners have to be in their businesses, because they've built their businesses. They aren't the only ones that know how to do some of the stuff in there. They're the only ones that know the answers to some of the questions. So consequently, they have to be there. It's all in their head. And this step is about getting out of their head and into a cloud-based platform that's purpose-built that everyone can access. I won't go into the details how that works, but in saying that, it's a lot easier than you think. Talking about probably the old days of standard operating procedures, but you don't anymore have to document it, type it all. A lot of this can be done by video, setting up in a platform so you don't have to be there. Other people in your business can come in and do the things that only you know how to do and answer the questions. So without going into too much more detail about that, I think you get the idea. The next step is step number 4. Previous step is the how-to, so getting the things out of your head, the how-tos. This is all about changing the way we do our day-to-day. It's about day-to-day management of tasks and projects. This is about who does what and when. So it's assigning the how-tos, and it works with the how-tos. So it's about setting up a system in your business so you don't have to be there to physically deliver what you have to do for the day. You don't have to send emails about what you have to do. It's all on a centralised system that you can access from anywhere at any time on any device. All of your team has access to it. You can collaborate on it. So it's about bringing everything into the one place that's related.
Yeah.
So when you're doing your day-to-day tasks, people got questions on that, they ask within that task. So that's about the day-to-day.
Thank you.
Oh, good, thanks.
Step number 5 is where the real gold comes in, and we talked about virtual assistants. And this is about, once you've done the previous steps and set up the processes and systems, it's about outsourcing some of the things that take up your day. So we all start off with a to-do list at the beginning of the day of things we really want to achieve. They're going to make a real difference to our life and our customers or our clients or our life. And at the end of the day, we've still got most of that list there. Because it's taken up by doing all this.
Oh, I'm not the only one.
these
around
the little things, the little bits and pieces. So this is
Distractions.
And you blame yourself for procrastination.
Distractions, yes.
exactly. I want to share with you. So Justine, who was on in the Work From Anywhere program. Justine is a sole operator. She's a leadership coach. She works day to day with clients, face to face, which she really enjoys. But as a sole operator, what it meant was doing all the admin and the other tasks, a lot of them on the weekend. She has a young boy and a partner, so she was losing her weekends doing the admin. So she went through the program, and then we talked about getting a virtual assistant. She didn't think it was possible, and let's share what Justine has to say.
You first started talking about the VA, that was back probably last November, December, and I dismissed it straight away. And was like, it's just me, I'm not big enough at what I have her to do, she can't do what I do. And then we had another couple of conversations, and I kind of reflected on it a little bit, and by about February I thought, no, actually I think I can make this work. And I'm good at delegating because I've done that my whole life. Then I found out that I had to have her 20 hours a week. And in my head I was thinking, I'll just get her for 5 hours, but that's not how it works. So at the beginning, I did struggle a little bit because I probably didn't go in with enough idea of what I could give her, but it turns out she's highly capable. Yeah, she probably gives me back 30 hours a week, to be honest, because she does some of that the administrative tasks much quicker than I would, and she's doing it over and over again, where I was doing it in between things. So having to multitask and switch was difficult. And it's been amazing. I could probably have her full time, to be fair, because there's so much there that we could be doing. That's definitely changed.
So key to that is, first of all, she didn't think it was possible. Then, because she had a different mindset about the processes, she was able to, I got her to list all the things that she did do, and then she said, oh no, I can create a process and get Mena to do that, get Mena's the name of her assistant. The good thing is, Mena can also help her create those systems. But key to that is, she engaged her assistant for 20 hours and got back 30 hours a week. The point she brings up is, when she was doing those little bits and pieces, she was doing the multitasking, doing them in between, so it takes her a lot longer. Mena's able to do them because that's all she's focusing on. So Justine has actually got 30 hours a week back. And her statement to me was, Andy, I've got my weekends back. She takes Friday off to have with Nash, her little boy.
I reckon you resent that with time too, because if you're doing things that are revenue producing, you feel like you're doing something that's worthwhile. Then you've got to come back and do all this admin, and you feel like you're not doing it for any reason. You just got to do it. It's a real labour of love, and it's a chore. And it's easy to practice creative avoidance, and do everything else. Car gets very clean, do the dishes.
But like you said, it still has to be done.
It still has to be done,
and because especially the people that like leadership coaches, they want to be feeling like they're achieving something all the time. And when you're doing that stuff, it's just stuff. You know, it has to be done.
It gives you bad energy. You
Yeah.
can't be upbeat and sort of happy and out there and doing things when you're stuck behind a computer doing admin. I mean, it's the antichrist of being sort of
It's a good description.
the big thing about that, so she gets Justine gets 30 hours a week back. She does. She said it herself. And when I spoke before about, you know, not working in those big long chunks and, you know, me going for a bike ride or doing something else, wherever it may be in your life, whether it's, you know, going to do some gardening or meeting some friends for lunch for a bit longer. Normally, if we take time out during the middle of the day, we probably have to work a bit later to make up for it. Get 30 hours a week back. You don't have to make up for it. You know, this is where the gold is. It's getting those things that you think only you can do and getting someone else to do it. Other thing, of course, is Justine gets to spend more quality time and more focused time with her clients and building her business. So,
how does that work when you've got when you're not a solo business? Because I get how the virtual assistant helps with that, but if you've got already a number of staff, is there a role for a VA?
absolutely, because you can allow your team, your internal team, to be more productive and have more meaning to their work as well by outsourcing some of their bits and pieces. If you're, you know, getting not menial admin tasks, you're actually giving an opportunity to your team to actually have more of an impact on themselves, on the business, feel better about their job. So yeah, definitely. It's not just for sole operators, absolutely not. You know,
So it can be for whole teams.
absolutely, yeah. Yeah. Once you've done the other parts, you know, you've got to put in the processes first.
Yeah.
You know, the biggest mistake business owners make is getting a virtual assistant and thinking they're mind readers. Yeah. Can you just take all this load off me? And they can't do that. But that's the biggest mistake that business owners make. You've got to do the work to start with.
Yeah.
And it absolutely works. People come to me and say, I've got a bricks and mortar business. I can't possibly work from anywhere. I have to be there all the time. Karen Lott, who's the next person I'll have a conversation with, she's got an award-winning cafe on the far south coast of New South Wales, down in Eden. She wanted to go to UK and Europe for a month, but she just couldn't get away from the business. She had to be there. I helped her actually have that month in Europe. She's got a fantastic business. It's called Sprout.
So when we started, you know, back in the early part of that, did you think it was possible? I know when we first chatted, you did say up front that you wanted to go to UK and Europe. Did you think that was possible?
Oh, well, I probably hoped it was. I don't know how realistic I thought it was. Yeah, for lots of reasons, not least money, I suppose. But yeah, just having a bricks and mortar business and knowing how much I did physically by hand, and needed to communicate with my staff on things all the time. Until I learned the tools, I didn't realise how much of that was able to be done remotely and from anywhere in the world.
The story is you actually did go there for a month and you come back 2 months later. How did you find, you know, you've gone from not being out of your business hardly at all to spending a month out of your business and then spending 2 months out of your business. How did you feel when you were over there, and was there any nerves around, you know, I know you have a fantastic team and we put some systems in place. Yeah. How did that work for you? Did you feel comfortable overseeing the business and confident?
Yes, I did, and obviously that's why, you know, a month felt like a big ask in the first place, but having seen and witnessed and experienced how brilliantly everything was running, especially with my fantastic team back in Australia, that was why I was able to confidently say, well, I'm going to stay a bit longer. Yeah.
And so you did.
I did.
Yeah. And so 2 months later, when you did eventually come back, and you come back to your business, obviously, what happened then? You know, so you've come back to your business, obviously, there would have been a bit of catching up to do. How were things different in your business and the way you run your business when you come back from that trip?
Well, I suppose I realised how superfluous I was. How they could live without me. They didn't need me there on a daily basis. So I then took myself from off shift, so no longer being there, you know, for a full shift every day.
So key to that is Karen does have a bricks and mortar business, a cafe. She wanted to go to Europe for a month. We got her set up so she could go to Europe for a month. She went there for a month and come back 2 months later, and she's been back every year since. I've done this interview. She was actually in the UK at the time, a few weeks ago, for her annual trip over there and running the business. But the big thing was when she come back, and similar to what I did when I come back, when she come back, she took herself off shift and didn't have to be there as much. Previously, she was there all the time and still working until midnight when she got home. It was ridiculous hours. And now she's able to continue growing the business as well as going overseas every year. So she's able to focus her energies on, because the business is running so well, on actually growing the business.
And you know, people wanted to see the face. So in this day and age, we've actually got a lot of opportunity for people to see your face, not necessarily face to face, but within a pretty quick connection. So I think we could use that to our benefit.
Absolutely.
So I'd be interested in what her takings are like. It just brought that up for me, I think.
Her business continues
Isn't
to
that
grow.
wonderful?
Yeah.
That's
She's
so
got key to it, she's got a very strong business to start with. She's got a good team, but she put processes in place. And she made the business not all about her. She's still the face of the business. You know, she still does social media. She does some interviews here and there too. So she's still there, but she doesn't have to physically be there.
There's a couple at Ulladulla who are making, and they've done such a great job. They're only a young couple in business. Just watching the consistency, like the product, you can go down there, and it's the same. The coffee is the same. The presentation of the meals is the same. They've gradually built. They've done it, and now, you know.
And what you brought up there is the consistency thing, and that's what, even though there's systems and it's not robotic, but what it's doing is creating consistency in your business. So you know, when you come into that business, whatever that business is, not one day you get a coffee that's good and one day it's not so good. Everything is consistent because everything is systemized, so everyone does it more or less the same way, but keeping the personality in it. I'll keep going because I'm aware that I'll quickly skip that one and just finish with Justine. This is just really.
I was actually working from anywhere, but I wasn't integrating work and life.
And apologies, it has gone long over. Well, not apologies, because of
travel. I can go and work there, but I wasn't integrating them, and I think that's the biggest thing, and that's the piece that I'll take away. And to try and describe the freedom that new mindset gives you, like all of a sudden you have more opportunities and more options. I feel lighter.
She's going to cry.
There were tears. So these were conversations over in the Alps at our retreat, and there were tears and there were emotions, and it was life changing. And I get tingles thinking about
that's what they're all about.
That was us hiking the Alps. So I won't go on with that, but it's something we're very passionate about, and that is the difference between remote working and integrating working life as well. And I think we've talked enough about that I don't have to go over that, but there is a huge difference. And funny enough, the last thing I suggest is, do you really want to retire? You've got a business. You've got a business that you enjoy doing. You're living life outside of it. You know, so you have to retire.
Just redefine the word retire.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny that come up early. I'm sort of preaching to the converted here. But, one day we will die, Snoopy. Yes, but every other day we will live. So, usually I finish with your thoughts, but I think everyone shared the thoughts, and I
We've been quite expressive.
appreciate it. It's gone well and truly over. So
No, that's great.
Yeah.
Really good.